Happy Sunday and welcome to Stocks to Watch for next week from alphawolftrading.com. I'm Tim coming at you with a list of stocks to watch, some things to look out for next week. We have earnings season coming up in full force next week. So we have a lot of earnings from some big names across various sectors, pretty broad range. Could be an interesting week. We do not have a tremendous amount of economic data coming up like we did last week. We've got a couple of things here, mortgage applications, housing starts, petroleum status, let's see, import exports, jobless claims, Philly Fed outlook. So we've got a few things, but nothing nearly as impactful as what we had last week. So as far as economic data, not a whole lot. What we do have a lot of is earnings. Let's take a look at that real quick. I do have some of the names that are on the list for next week's earnings on my stocks to watch list. Now, I'm actually watching a lot of stocks that are reporting next week. The stocks that have the black boxes around them, I'm very interested in seeing what their earnings look like. I'm not necessarily looking to take a trade off of those earnings. The ones that have the green boxes around them actually have technical setups that I find fairly compelling and might have a trade opportunity in them as well. But the ones, the black around them, I'm looking at possibly how they may impact the whole sector that they're in. So we have a bunch of them, right? Netflix, Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, Johnson & Johnson, Lockheed Martin, Navient, CSX, Qualcomm, GE, Schlumberger, Honeywell, Cintas. I mean, a lot. Steel companies, Steel Dynamics, Nucor, United Rentals. I mean, there's an awful broad range of stocks that are reporting next week, and we'll be keeping an eye on all of that. Now, I usually go over the markets themselves, the sectors. I'm trying to shorten up these videos so it doesn't take up so much of your day. Bottom line is the top sectors that I like out there right now, and I think still look fairly decent for the bulls: IWM, which is the small caps, IYT, transportation, IBB, biotech, USO, I think is kind of interesting. That is one of the most hated sectors out there right now, energy and oil. But if you look at what oil did last week, we were up 5 days in a row, so it wouldn't be a shocker if we were just to consolidate here. But we're coming up on this 50-day moving average. We can take that out, and then I think we'll have some resistance probably at the $10 holla, because 10 was kind of acting as support, right? So we might have some price resistance there at 10. It also happens to coincide with the 100 EMA. But if we take out 10, I think then you're going to see some pretty nice action within the oil and energy space, which has really been beaten up quite a bit. XLV Healthcare also looks very good, and XAR Aerospace Defense. And we've got a couple of aerospace defense companies that are reporting this week. Those are kind of my favorite sectors out there. But let's go ahead and just hop right into the stocks to watch for next week. First one is STML. It's a biotech company, and what I really like about this is that it had a nice run, consolidated, right? Built up a bit of energy, and then we had a nice little volume pop on Friday, and it broke and closed above the 200-day. Now, we may not get a follow-through on this, right? We may actually just consolidate a little bit. If you look, it came right up into price resistance, and that's where it closed. So looking for this to possibly consolidate here, work its way back into the Bollinger Band, and then try to hold this 200-day moving average as support. That could be the spot to try and take it for a bounce. There's only 22 million shares in the float, 7% short interest in STML. So, possibly a pullback to 10, right? That could also, round numbers tend to act as support. So maybe a pullback to 10, bounce, maybe we flag out here, pull back to 10, and look for a break over the trend line once we put in that flag. But STML, worth keeping an eye on. BDSI, which has actually been on the list for, I think, for a couple of weeks now. We actually had a good pop in this on Friday with some decent volume, right up into the $3 holla, right into this area of price resistance. Looking for a red to green move. Maybe we pull back to 280, 285, and break higher. This is a pretty big spot for it to try and get through. $3. I'm looking for a pullback to around 295. This could be a day trade. This could be a higher risk swing. You play size appropriate, but really nice pattern on the daily. Popped out of the upper Bollinger Band, worked its way sideways on lower volume, and now we're getting some increased volume, and we closed at the high of the day. So we'll see how this one reacts on Monday. We'll see if we get a gap or if we actually get a little bit of a pullback. Like I said, red to green move, but not too bad of a look there on BDSI. BEAT has been a beast and had a nice run, consolidated, and popped on Friday right into price resistance. Now, if you back this one out, you have to go back out on the monthly to see that it's basically at almost all-time highs, right? Let me make sure that's accurate here. Yeah, all-time highs on BEAT. So $36 is all-time highs, and it came right up into an area of price resistance after flagging out. So looking again at this one as a potential red to green move, likely going to have some resistance somewhere in that $36 area. Only 24.4 million shares in the float, 7% short interest. Above all the moving averages, you got a rising 200-day, rising 50-day, good looking setup. You got a cup with handle and it just broke. So worth keeping an eye on BEAT. RIBT got an interesting little spike on good volume on Friday. Took a look at this company. I mean, they sold off a division. They're going to pay off all their debt and in the U.S. Actually, U.S. division. They're going to pay that off. They have a new CEO, new CFO at this company. It's a 9.7 million share float stock. Just closed above the 200-day moving average. This is more of a day trading opportunity. This was a pretty big pop and flop, but it did manage to close over $1. I think you have the dollar as potential support, right? Look for a bounce off the dollar. See if this gets any follow through. Stochastics are just starting to curl up. This gets any kind of real volume or a continuation of volume with only 9.7 million shares in the float. This thing could get pretty interesting. So I think it's worth keeping an eye on for a day trading opportunity. SRNE. This had an interesting pull right to the 50-day on Friday and then bounced and closed up in the upper portion of the candle right at the $2 holler. There's been some insider buying here at 2 in April. There's another, the CEO bought some more at $1.81 in June. So I think this is worth keeping an eye on for a break over the 50 EMA with some conviction. I think maybe you get a pop up to $2.30 or so. There is actually a gap to fill on the daily, all the way up to about $3, right around that area, $2.90. And maybe this was a little flush here on Friday. I don't know. Decent volume. This has only got 55 million shares in the float. We'll see if we get any kind of follow through on a 2-roll out of SRNE. You want to see some good volume there to get involved. AUPH kind of has a it's right at an area of potential price resistance. It had a little pop on Friday. Looking for it to take out the $7 holla with some conviction. You probably have some resistance right around there, right? 705 or so. maybe a red to green, right? Pull back to 650. Looking for it to go touch 7, maybe scale out a little bit there. If it can take 7 out, maybe 735 or so, you scale a bit more and then see if you can get a pop all the way up into this 790 area, right? Where we've got some price resistance. But AUPH, what do we have? Oh, I don't know. Hold on a second. All right, AUPH has 44 million shares in the float. Not absolutely, actually no short interest, but not a bad look on AUPH. We'll see if we get any follow through on that one next week. AMRN had an amazing run, got out of the upper Bollinger Band, pulled back, and just broke this trend line on Friday. Stochastics curling up and basically flirting with the 4 roll, right? So thinking after pulling back a bit, maybe we get a continuation of this move that we saw on Friday. We go back up, we test that 450. Likely that would probably be a decent place to scale out a little bit. If it can take out 450 with conviction, let's back it up to the weekly, see where we've got some resistance here. Up to $5, right? That's where we've got some potentially significant resistance, is up in the $5 area. I think that's it's worth keeping an eye on AMRN to see if we get any kind of follow through. I think ideally for me, I'd want to get it as close to $4 as possible. And I'll get a pullback to $4.05 or so. Look for that to be my entry. Put a stop at maybe $3.90, and see if we can get a tag up to $4.50. Decent risk reward on AMRN. OCRX, potential flat top breakout here. Consolidating right here at the 100 EMA. Needs to take out about $1.28, $1.30. Likely going to have some resistance at $1.60. Potential day trade opportunity on this one. 22.6 million shares in the float. You got the 200-day moving average right at $1.60, so that would be the target to exit. But not a bad look on OCRX. BLPH, another one that's been coiling up pretty nicely. Just got an upgrade from HC Wainwright with a $5 price target. Let's see. They need cash, so that's something to be cognizant of with BLPH. Probably more of a day trading opportunity as well. 12.6 million shares in the float, 28% short interest. It's been coiling up for a while. If it can take out this trend line, I think potentially you get a 2 test. ABT, so this is Abbott Labs. They have earnings this week. Matter of fact, let's take a look and see. The Thursday before the open really has a nice look. All right, had a nice big move up. It's been consolidating. It could move in anticipation of its earnings. I'm not suggesting to take it before earnings. If you want to just get a quick, the problem is this is a thick stock, 1.7 billion shares in the float. So it's really more of a swing or long-term hold than it is a day trade. If earnings disappoint, maybe we get a pullback to the 50-day. But it really does have a pretty nice look. Maybe it takes out this trend line. You get a 50 test heading into earnings. Worth keeping an eye on it, either for an earnings play after earnings are announced, or for a pullback to support to around 47, maybe 46.50 for a bounce off the 50-day moving average. KNDI kind of got a flat top breakout look to it. There has been insider buying in KNDI. This is a China name, electric cars. They had some news last week, consolidating just below the 200-day moving average. Look, if it can take out 450 with conviction, take out that 200-day, I think you could get a pretty nice move out of KNDI. It's been in a dominant downtrend for a long time. Let's see, insider buys at 467, 475, 395 to 521. There, insider buys at $5. So there's a lot of insider activity going there. Take out the 200-day. This has only got 34 million shares in the float, 16% short interest. Worth keeping an eye on it, but know that it is a China name and it can be a pop and flopper, so don't chase it. CSX, beautiful looking chart. They report Tuesday after the close. If they beat and raise, this thing could CEO bought 300,000 shares at $50.20. Let me back this out for a second. CSX is at all-time highs. So there's no potential resistance above, right? We're in blue sky. So this has really got a good look to it. If by chance they report good numbers, but the stock pulls back, maybe to this $53, maybe to the 50-day moving average, more of a swing or long-term hold than it is a day trade, right? Because it does have 878 million shares in the float, so it's a thick stock, but lower left, upper right, above the 50-day, maybe on a pullback to the 50-day, that's a place to look to potentially take it for a swing. Pfizer, this has got a great look on a pullback to support after a nice pop. I like healthcare right now, and I think Pfizer for your long-term hold portfolio is very attractive at this particular level. It'd be great to get it actually at about $33 even, or as close to 33 as possible. But this is pretty close. I mean, look for a trend line break on this. I don't know when they report earnings. Maybe you want to wait until after earnings on this one. But I think this is a good stock to be involved in your long-term hold portfolio. Good looking setup. Just broke over that trend line. We pull them back to test it. See if maybe we get a bounce there. ORBC. This also has a nice look. Telecom. Hold on. All right, if we go back on the monthly, this is right at an area of price resistance, this 1160 or so. So it's a fairly decent spot to try and break above. It's been consolidating for a few weeks now, right? So looking for it to take out that 1160 with some conviction. Now it is overbought. That's one issue with it. It's only got 67 million shares in the float. You know, maybe it would be better on a pullback to the 50-day. You want to see some volume in this one too. If it could take out 1160 with some volume, potential day trade opportunity. It is overbought. That's the only thing I'm not super crazy about here. Maybe it becomes more compelling on a pullback to around 1070 or so. Pull back to the 50-day moving average. See if that holds a support for a potential bounce. TRV, the Travelers Insurance, had a big pop has been pulling back right to the 50-day, and they have earnings. Where is it? Thursday, before the open. I mean, you've got potential price support here. Maybe it drifts down to about 123 into earnings. They report good earnings. Could be a good bounce off of that level. Stochastics are curling up. Lower left, upper right. Good looking chart on TRV. NAVI, they report on Tuesday after the close. Potential flat top breakout here at 17. Take out 17 bucks. I think you have some resistance somewhere around $18 or so. Go back to the weekly. 18 is a big spot to try and get through, so you're likely going to have some resistance there at 18. And the last one on the list this week, NUE, Steel Company. So actually, you know, NUE, Steel Dynamics actually look pretty good as well. Right, very similar for Steel Dynamics. They both report this week. Steel Dynamics reports on Wednesday after the close, and then Nucor reports on Thursday before the open. The other ones to keep an eye on as well are AK Steel and US Steel. Right, I actually kind of like the whole space. So, but I think Steel Dynamics and Nucor, their earnings will kind of set the tone for the whole rest of the steel sector. So US Steel overbought. I think AK Steel is overbought too. Hold on. Yeah, a little bit overbought. So they could take a breather heading into Steel Dynamics earnings on Wednesday. If Steel Dynamics reports good earnings, then I think you're going to see these move in sympathy with it. So worth keeping an eye on that whole space. All right, that's it for my list of stocks to watch this week. I think it's going to be an interesting week with all the earnings that we have coming up. Let's see how it all plays out. All right, have a fantastic Sunday. Good luck trading next week, and I'll see you all next week.